What is being done in the area of cyber intelligence, and are we at par with other agencies in the field of cyber intelligence?
Cyber intelligence, our response has been only to have a body that will respond to emergency attacks and hacking attacks of cyber response. We have not developed a force that will counter cyber attack. As per my understanding of 2018, we did not have the force. If it has been developed in 2018, then it's good. I had few people telling me that the group is operational and it is ready for counter cyber attacks. The Defense Intelligence Agency has proposed an independent cyber intelligence organization and cyber attack units that may be up by the next year. Uh, RAW has some limited capabilities, and by limited, I mean very limited. NTRO is basically focused on satellites and other units, but let us see what happens.
If enemy wants to break the Indian army on caste lines, linguistic lines, or state lines, can that be achieved with help of India's internal enemies? And by internal enemies, I mean I'm pretty sure he means like the Amanki Asha people, the JNU liberals, those type of things.
Yeah, they are trying. They are trying their level best to break our army, our society. We are, and let us be a little more restrained. We are getting triggered very easily over many things. So this is a sign that the society is on its nerves. There are many causes to it, but the enemy is trying to break it. It is trying to break it on caste line, linguistic lines. They usually peddle the narrative that the Dalits are not Hindus and they should unite with Muslims, and the Muslims are being butchered in India and are being killed in India. So they ran a very big campaign on the Islamophobia of India, where apparently a UAE princess was also involved in supporting. And we did counter it using diplomatic and official channels, and the narrative went flat, but it did the damage for a few months. So yes, the enemy is hellbent. The thing is, can we do the same? Can we um, also do something similar? Can we divide them on Ahmadiyya's cause? Can we divide them on, let's say, Pashtun cause? So we have to do that if they are doing it. We have to be ready for it.
Do you have any knowledge of any other incidents or operations that you would like to share that you can share?
Yes, I have knowledge of one such ops. It is quite an interesting one. We were monitoring few accounts in Afghanistan, bank accounts, involved with certain people who were involved with Pakistani ISI, and we were monitoring them. Few months they got a huge deposits. Yeah, certainly there were huge deposits that were done to these accounts. So the intelligence assets alerted us, and our the raw offices in the Delhi took notice of it, which was very important. And they had a plan in place. We contacted the Afghanistan intelligence and our ground intelligence in Afghanistan to keep track of the people involved. Uh, the report came that two young students are going to India, come to India, and they were flagged by Afghanistan intelligence as suspicious. So Raw had a plan in place. These students came. They were admitted to the colleges in Delhi. Um, they befriended an Indian guy, quite street smart guy. So this guy was very interested in Afghan culture, in Pakistan, in Islam, and he asked them questions, and he took them to mosques in Delhi and everything. So they developed a bonhomie. These guys asked that can they get a house in a good area? So this guy told that he will ask his friends and get back to them. This guy was a raw agent who asked the raw officers for a flat. The raw officers allowed him, rented a flat, and told him to invite these two people in. So these two people went in, and they trusted this guy. The relation developed over 2 months, and then they asked him that they needed certain items. Those items were actually contrabands and explosives. So this guy had the plan ready, and the raw was trapped in. He supplied those contraband to these people. The raw was ready in the safe house. They took these two guys out, caught them red-handed, and they were interrogated, and they are still in custody. Hmm. So these are public ops that happened on our land. There are many such ops. Some happened in Thailand, some happened on Bangladeshi soil. So snatch grab ops usually happens in the IB. There is a very good movie on it on about IB snatch
Do
grab
you think
ops.
RAW is indirectly or has its hand in the Balochistan Liberation Army?
I am answering it theoretically. Why not? If theoretically if theoretically we see it, why not? If you have seen those videos that the PLA and other people post, Balochistan Liberation, other organizations post, do you notice they use a Dragunov rifle for sniping missions, and the Dragunov rifle is a sniping rifle is not something that you aim and shoot. You have to calculate distances, wind speed. You have to know the constant by which it is divided to uh, get at a right target, and aim it particularly. So this kind of training can be imparted only by someone who has been a sniper. uh, Considering the BLA, this training was imparted maybe by Afghanistan forces or by someone who is not very friendly with Pakistan and is around Afghanistan, has a presence in Afghanistan. So I believe that the BLA, the RAW has a hand in BLA. The precision IED attacks, that is also a trademark of a military ops. That is not a trademark of a organization which can barely sustain itself. We need to remember that we talk about intelligence failures. So we need to remember that intelligence agencies work on judgments on the basis of estimated perceptions, which may be wrong or right. The asset gives an estimated perception or information which he has seen or has heard. So after the information is gathered, the main task lies in information refining, and the refining process is done by humans, okay, at headquarters. So based on this refining, the information is provided. The information can be reliable, information cannot be reliable, but once it's processed, it is sent to the desk. So if a unreliable information is sent, the results will be unreliable. But due to the nature of the job, there is unreliability. There are failures. Kinds of failures is failure to detect. So the simple failure is terrorist attack. So either you did not have the information, or you had the information but did not act on the information, or you had the incorrect information about the location or the type.
What is the level of coordination between RAW and CIA, and given government change in USA, how will it affect in the future?
Level of coordination. So the RAW and CIA collaboration started in 62. Went on my. It was with IB. It went on in 68 with the RAW. They gifted planes to RAW, aircrafts to RAW. They established the special frontier. Helped in establishing the special frontier force. Um, there, from then the relationship started. We had U2 Dragon ladies in Charbata Air Base in Odisha, if you know that. So. mm then there was a cold wave in the relationships. In 2000, from 2014, the relationship has picked up to the level that in 2019, the RAW chief invited, the CIA chief invited the RAW chief on his flight to Afghanistan, and they went there. They were given a direct security briefings by the intelligence officials present in the Afghanistan on the situation and the future moves. So I think that yes, the coordination is happening. The change in government. So the change in government will affect some of the priorities, but the basic cooperation, once it is decided that we are going to cooperate in Indo-Pacific region, IOR region, so it will continue. At least the intelligence cooperation will continue to go on. That's a kind of leverage they also want in this region.
In the Bihar election, it has come to my knowledge that the seats near Siliguri corridor have been won by the All India Majlis Ittihadul Muslimin, the AIMIM, and people are saying that this may result in the infiltration of refugees, terrorists, etc. In your opinion, how much of this is true or may have an effect on our national security?
See, those areas are under surveillance by intelligence agencies. Even the electoral representatives are under surveillance by I. And I believe that if they try to smuggle people and if there are terrorists, they will be hunted down and they will meet their fate, their maker. But MIM has to make a clear stand. Whether what does it stand for? Like we as people should do that because government can only ask them questions in parliament, but we as people can actually force them to make the stand clear. Are they with the idea of India? Are they with the democracy? Are they with United India? Will they support a military annexation of POK? Will they support a fight with Pakistan? We need to ask them hard questions. But till the time they themselves are not picking up arms, intelligence monitoring and internal sabotage can be used to check them. Like I said, some materials that can be found against them.
Today we had the assassination of a top Iranian nuclear scientist, presumably by Mossad. Now, if you
Hmm.
remember, a couple of days ago, Mike Pompeo went to Saudi Arabia, and
Yes.
there were reports that Israel's prime minister was also there. Now, this is my prediction that I believe that before Trump leaves office, he is going to be messing things up with Iran so that it becomes near to impossible for Biden to carry out his agenda with Iran, which is more based on, giving them money for the nuclear deal, trying to mend relations with Iran. So I feel like this is a plan by Saudi Arabia, Israel, and the hawks in the United States who do not like Iran to make sure that they can put so much pressure on Iran that it is forced to retaliate. And so then the relations between Iran and US don't go anywhere near normal when Biden takes over. That's the way I'm looking at things. How are you looking at that, and how will that affect India?
Mhm. Good question. I appreciate that Iran being our friend makes us in a complicated position because we are friends with Saudi, we are friends with Israel, we are friends with USA, and we are friends with Iran.
Yes,
So the main problem is here. It is between Israel, Iran, and US.
yes.
USA will not mount a military offensive, according to me, but they will continue to support Mossad in doing sabotage, and it is up to the Iran how it responds to those sabotage. So if Iran sends bomb, a squadron of aircraft to bomb Israel, that could be a declaration of war, and that could actually lead to war. But if Iran does some small scale attack somewhere and destroys Saudi oil refineries or something like that, that would not result in a war. So most probably both sides will have a limited confrontation using intelligence, UAVs, and proxies. But I don't see it blowing into a full war, especially when the generals in the US know that Biden is taking over, and the same in the Iran know that Biden is taking over, and they will get a deal in the end. So I don't believe that it will rise to the level of military confrontation.
Okay, adding to that, since you stated that neither the US or Iran will have the appetite for war, knowing that Biden administration is coming in January, how do you think Israel will try to provoke the United States? Because we've seen this in the past that whenever the United States becomes not too enthusiastic of doing something that Israel wants for it, Israel also always, they tend to resort to underhand tactics, which force the US's hand, and then in the end, they have to get involved anyways. So, do you see that happening somehow during the Biden administration?
Yes, I see that happening because in intelligence there is a very bad thing. You undermine your friend to get at your enemy. Okay? So if Israel is a dominant intelligence player in that region, it can undermine certain US positions so that Iran attacks them and or its people, some some group which is affiliated with US, like some foreign journalist or something like that. If they go under an attack due to a leaked intel on the movements, US may be pressured to act against Iran.
Under geopolitics, what is the future of Russia after Putin? And where do you see that going? Can Russia be a democracy instead of what it is right now, which is basically an oligarchy?
Russia as a democracy is more dangerous. I think so, because then you will have generals controlling the narrative and admirals controlling the narrative, and the ICBMs falling under their command will not be so secure after all. So, Russia under Putin, and after Putin, also, if there is a strongman in position, it will be much better for the security of everyone. Mm, I believe that some countries are not meant for democracy.
Okay.
Like, not at this stage. Maybe in future, maybe when there is less threat perception by both US and Russia, then they can have a democratic setup. It is democracy on paper, but we all know it is not a democracy in practice.
After coronavirus is over, do you think there will be any sort of response by the world community overtly, covertly against China?
I believe they will attack China on the position on which it is strong, that is trade and market. So they will build supply chains. There is already talk of building a separate supply chains with Japan and Australia, and Blue Dot network we are trying to build. If you search it, it is counter to China's border road initiative.
Okay.
So Blue Dot network, it is US led. India is still to join it. We should have joined it, but yeah, supply chain, manufacturing, shifting of manufacturing hubs from China, um, building of a strong alliance around China, military and economic, and actually calling the bluff on their humanitarian crises and human rights violation. You will put an indirect pressure. At this stage, no country wants to go into direct confrontation with Chinese military, especially when they have those D series 17 and D 15. sort of missiles. So no country actually wants to risk a direct military confrontation. But yes, there are many ways they can be made to pay.
What is the future of conventional warfare, given the rise of guerrilla tactics have rendered having decisive victory almost impossible to achieve?
Yeah, so you have to have special ops unit, you have to have tier 1, tier 2 units ready and equally well armed and equally in large numbers. Like, I am not saying 13 lakh of special forces, but I am saying around 80,000 special forces units if you have. You can fight good war. They should be really very good at fighting enemies anywhere. Send them to Afghanistan, send them to Somalia, send them to Africa, send them anywhere on earth, they should be able to fight. Yes, there will be casualties, but we should also employ the guerrilla tactics and we should fight a gorilla like a gorilla. More focused on what is called as SOF, that is Special Operation Forces. The Russians have changed their SFs to the SOFs, and the US has already done that quite long back. They have changed that to the changed it to the Special Operations Forces model.
Sunny, what do you think about the future of Bangladesh after Sheikh Hasina's retirement, especially specifically relations with India?
So with Bangladesh, we have people-to-people ties, we have military ties, we have intelligence ties. The question is of radicalization. If we can convince the majority population through diplomatic endeavors, gifts, and open markets that we are not holding anything against you or your population. So the relationships could be maintained, and even after Sheikh Hasina, it could progress. It depends on taking on a approach. Like, one person does not define everything of a nation. There are many layers to it. So yes, we can work on that.
Is the UPSC channel active for raw recruitment during foundation course?
Yeah, it is active. It is quite active. And the approach is basically the bottom of the list approach, like the Indian postal services, the Indian defense state services. Those kind of guys are more likely to get into the raw because the top people already have a good job and are less likely to exchange their services for the research and administrative service, research and analysis services. So yeah.
That, and now we have our last question from ladooscuro. Is there a lack of coordination between our security forces given the mess up during IB plan to assassinate Dawood during his daughter's wedding?
Yes, I will agree to it. There was a lack of coordination between our security forces that has been quite there has been quite improvements to that. But are we at the 100% coordination? No, no country in the world has 100% coordination between its security forces. So even in Israel, there are certain differences. So yeah, we are not at the level of Israel. We are not at the level of USA also. We are on our own analysis. We are getting better, but the situation was very different during the Congress regimes and the previous regimes. And even I will say that the Vajpayee government, the situation was mm, quite messy, but the things are improving a lot better now. The coordination is there, it is being practiced, but again there are personality cults, there are egos, there are one-upmanship. These kind of problems do exist.
Okay, and Ladu's asking if you could elaborate on the Dawood episode, the failed assassination of Dawood. It would be great for our listeners to hear.
There was one IB retired officer. It was not Dole sir. I have confirmed it that it was not Dole sir who was involved in the uh, planning of training two assassins from the Chota Rajan group who would assassinate Dawood in the party. So they have recently changed their allegiance from Chota Rajan to Dawood's group. and they were invited to the party. So they were being trained. But what happened that uh, when they were actually moving from one location to another, Maharashtra police intercepted them and they arrested all of them, uh, tortured them for information. Hopefully, the IB guy was released because certain phone calls were made and they were under pressure to release him, but the operation was blown. And this was communicated back to Dawood via uh, ISI that there was a attempt made and there was a planning made on your life. So they shifted him from location to location for few months.
Wow, that was fascinating to hear. And with that, we will end this podcast. Thank you so much to our guest, Prudent Hermit, for his views and answering the questions of our members on related to topics of national security, intelligence, internal security, and also how politics affects the field of intelligence. So I want to thank you, Prudent, for your time. It's really cool of you to do this. Yeah.
It's been my pleasure, and thank you all for asking all the questions. And I tried to answer to the best of my ability. And I actually did not have notes prepared, so I could have answered better if I had. But
No, no,
then
you did very.
this was top of my mind. This was top of my mind, and I answered.
No, no, you
And
did a
it was
perfect
really
job.
interesting to note uh, the involvement of everyone. And yeah,
Thank you
you're a
so
great
much,
lot.
and it was a learning
Thank you
experience
guys
for
for
me.
conducting it in such a great manner, such interesting manner, and allowing everyone their due and their time and their questions. Thank you so much.
No problem, no problem. Thank you, Prudent, and thank you to all our members for joining us. This is the end of the podcast. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe this video. And we will be doing another podcast soon. Our next podcast will most likely be on the analysis of the TN elections that are coming up in Tamil Nadu, and that will be moderated by one of our members, Utkarsh. And so we look forward to doing that podcast very soon, I think. And yeah, please keep following us on our Discord server and our YouTube channel, and you will get the latest updates for when that is about to come. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.